Your boyfriend.
No.
Where your boyfriend at? Is he getting you refreshments? Is he tall? Is he getting you Mike and Ike's? Or you like Mike and Ike's? Is he hefty? Is he coming back?
No,
Where your
no,
boyfriend?
no,
Where your boyfriend at? Where your boyfriend?
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tunjis Podcast. I am your host, Tunji Taylor Lewis. Man, I'm so happy about how these podcasts just keep rolling in. I'm glad that I'm in the routine. I'm glad that I'm into it. I heard a stat one time that, or today actually, not one time, that podcasts, the vast majority of podcasts don't make it past its 7th episode. And here we are at episode 39, and definitely wouldn't be at this point if it weren't for you guys' encouragement. Thank you so much. Today I want to get into a bit of a meatier topic, a bit of a heavier topic than I usually talk about. Usually I'm talking about entertainment or just how life is going for me during that day. Kind of want to touch on some, toxic masculinity, and just, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I have a lot of thoughts on why toxic masculinity is as prevalent as it is, and why a lot of women sometimes don't get the best version of us when they're in relationships with us or have sexual encounters with us or whatever the case may be. Basically, my take on, the bad behavior of all men is I believe like a huge culprit for it, and a big reason for it is because we as men aren't taught how to deal with heartbreak, right? And on top of not being taught how to deal with heartbreak, we're not encouraged to express our emotions, right? So for the ladies out there, like, you guys have to deal with like a whole bunch of bullshit in our society, no doubt. Not even gonna try to undermine that one bit. But one thing you guys do have over us is that you guys are, it is socially acceptable for you guys to express how you feel. So if you feel like crying, you can cry. Basically, that's the main emotion that I'm getting at, is like, because with black women, so you guys are, get the tag as the angry black women, so you guys aren't allowed to be angry, so whatever. But like, the main emotion that I'm getting at is like, when you guys need to cry, it is far more acceptable in our society that you guys cry than it is for men to cry. The emotion that we're allowed to express is anger. That's a manly emotion, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, that's harder, that's more like confrontational, that's more all that stuff. But like the softer emotions, like, melancholy, sadness, all that stuff, we gotta, like, suppress that shit in. And I like the anger that we express, and the immaturity that we sometimes express, like the inability to like handle responsibility and just like lash out at people and manipulate women and stuff like that. Like it's all because we don't know, we aren't taught how to deal with heartbreak. Like and heartbreak can come in a bunch of different forms. It could be like, a girl that you really love, breaking your heart. It could come in the form of like, not having a parent around, or a parent leaving, or stuff like that. Like some form of huge disappointment or even trauma that we go through. We're not taught that about, having conversations with somebody that we trust and expressing our emotions and getting our emotions out. We're not encouraged to pray about these things. We're not encouraged to cry, like I said. We're not encouraged to go to therapy if we need to. By the way, shout out to Charlemagne the God for making therapy a relevant thing in the black community. That's something that black men definitely need. We're not encouraged to do those things, but we're encouraged to, fuck as many girls as we want, and sex is definitely a thing that sort of covers up that heartbreak. You don't have to like live in that state of like loneliness or sadness or underlying trauma or disappointment that you still haven't dealt with. It's almost like if there's something like stinking in the kitchen, you get Febreze and you Febreze, the whole place, and it doesn't smell so bad anymore. That's like sex. That's what sex is. The problem with the Febreze though is that you're not actually going to the place. You're not actually going to underneath the sink to get the rotten, banana that's under there and throwing it in the garbage. You're just, gonna keep on Febrezing so that you can keep on, ignoring the fact that there's something there that needs to be dealt with. And like that's what sex is for a lot of dudes, is Febreze. Yeah, that, put that on a t-shirt or tweet that, right? Sex is Febreze. Like for a lot of us, it's just a way to like cover up, like the shit that we be feeling, the shit that we be thinking about. And that's just what we're taught to do. And when I say teach, it can come directly from like, people like male figures and stuff like that, like we're basically encouraged to like, fuck all the women that we want, and like, but a lot of it like comes from the media. Like that's what all like the cool dudes and all the movies and all the TV shows and like a lot of the top dudes in music videos and top dudes in social media, like that's just what you see them doing. They seem to be living the life. They seem to have like no worries at all. Yeah, and like it and like once you get into like the habit of once you get into the habit of like fulfilling your ego through having dominance over women, that shit is very hard to stop, and it becomes like very, very intoxicating. Yeah, like if you're not in the habit of dealing with that shit in a healthy way, whatever habit you develop to sort of cover those negative emotions up, that's just what you're gonna keep on doing. And certainly, I guess the reason why I have this perspective is that I was able to, observe this stuff from the outside looking in. Luckily I can say that as far as like, being super toxic or like super disrespectful towards women, I can gladly say that, like I wasn't in that category, not just because of what I say, but because of what the other people around me say. I grew up, my dad, had these conversations with me. I remember when I was young, my dad just having conversations about, like how I should be, looking at and treating at women, and like, you shouldn't be looking at pornography, son, and you shouldn't be, like if you see a woman that you're attracted to, you like her figure, don't stare at her too long. That's like, that can make her like mad or uncomfortable, what I mean? Like that's somebody's daughter, all that stuff. And this was the stuff I was taught. And the thing that I would say is just like, because I grew up like being very respectful of women and not participating with my friends whenever they were like, hollering at women or like, saying like, crazy like sexual stuff like about a woman that was over there, and I didn't participate in it. And also when other women saw me not participating in like a lot of the stuff that young boys participated in, which like leads into toxic masculinity, people would question my sexuality. People would question if I was a man at all, as far as society defines it, a man. People would question my sexuality, and it's so crazy. Like, I definitely see on social media that people, there's an outcry for men to be more healthy, for men to love themselves, for men to be more loving towards women, to be more faithful, all that stuff. But I know from experience, as somebody who's who I would say has had good behavior towards women, in a relational manner, basically my whole life, that, like people say they want it, and I do believe that they're ready for it, but it's still, when you see it, it's still unusual. And it's unusual to see it I feel like the only time people are comfortable seeing somebody who's really respectful with women is if you know in the back of your mind they've had a past where they weren't, and they've learned their lesson and they've now come around. But you know, I'm kind of like looking forward to the day where like there's a whole generation of young boys who just grew up like knowing, you know, how to treat women and how to do better. So yeah, y'all, that's just my perspective on the whole thing. Please leave a comment, please leave a review. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.